Sometimes you just gotta take a leap of danger. Like, what's up, danger?
Domain expansion. Street tier. Spider-Man vs. Deku is the second modern Death Battle episode that, let's say, left the target audience, because I find it unlikely you clicked on this video without being aware of the street tier / Deku meme. You either die to a street tier hero and you get clowned on for it, or live long enough to become a nightmare for everyone who does as much as even stepping on a sidewalk, technically making you a street tier by some insane troll logic. Never change, internet, never change. As far as Lander goes, and as someone who got pretty tired of how anti-Deku material is still out there, I hate to admit how funny this post-release period was. What about the episode itself though? Is it a worthy one back compared to the previous appearances on the show? And how does it compare to the previous, more animated My Hero Academia episode? Does it at all? Ooh, that's me teasing ya. I'm Uncle Krypton, subscribe for more Death Battle stuff, and without further ado, let's begin. In many reaction channels be confused about this breakdown starting with Peter going like, wait, I thought this was Miles' episode, and like, guys, you do know Miles' Spider-Man journey starts with Peter, right? Speaking of good old webhead, I like how the quote, he's been Spidey for who knows how long part is juxtaposed with various Peters across various media, old or new. That's a clever way to reference how blonde Peter, the guy who said it, was meant to reflect how big and commercialized Spider-Man franchise became in our world. The editing is nice to look at, there's a small tease about the next Marvel vs episode immediately after this one, and look, it's a very Spider-Verse friendly analysis, let's say. Like, on one end, there's a zero chance you'd miss anything if your own exposure to Miles were only those movies, like you're pretty much okay in that case, but it would be nice to know more about comic book Miles, you know, instead of just his most popular iteration. Apparently there's a whole non-Gwen love interest I never heard of, Miles was a vampire once, and by Odin's fate. Besides the branding joke, the humor in this analysis felt a bit flat, like they do throw a small dig at Man of Steel, which, you know, as a Snyder fan I think we've had enough of those for fill up another 12 years, but what can you do? I do however like these quote video game screen tips that pop up during the loading screen editing, the Spider fun fact, Spider-Man nod, the cheery pop beat in the background, and how they foreshadowed all of Miles' favorite weeb interest before referencing them in the fight itself. All except JoJo, because the source material beat them on that. What I do love, however, is the usage of the Stanley quote at the very end, plus the message about the anyone can be a hero theme that binds both characters, and breakdowns, but in different ways. For Spider-Man, it's, quote, by staying true to ourselves in our unique ways, fitting with Miles' own unique brand of spideriness, and with Deku it's for as long as we reach out our hand for those in need, linking Deku's altruism and teamwork with his classmates, as the solo act clearly didn't work out too well for him. I swear, it's as if the writing for these breakdowns was mostly asleep, but woke the fuck up for the very ending lines. No disrespect to the rest, it's just, you know, watch enough Death Battle episodes and you will feel the difference between okay and great. I actually am fonder of Deku's analysis compared to Miles, funnily enough. I like how both breakdowns start by first introducing the predecessor, you know, passing the torch and everything, and even the humor is better for both intended and unintended reasons. It's mostly the small things, like the same team behind the Ben Lantern, Bardock Man and Let's Kill Goku 3 we can't help ourselves not feeling brave enough to anger shippers as much as they do with power skills. Like, that's hilarious. Even the freaking My Hero Academia author was hesitant about fully 200% confirming Deku and Ochaku being a couple at the end. Still doesn't justify your cack fantasy, by the way, please drop the porn. But had zero fear insinuating that All Might's top running speed is Mach 10. Ironically, some pretty damn adorable Miles x Deku shipping art came out of this episode. Look at him here, looks like a kitty. I'm not sure this following thing they made was done on purpose or not, but I'm pretty sure Deku's breakdown places emphasis on one for all possibly being too much for his body to handle no less than 3 times, only for Miles to be the one unable to fully handle its potency all at once. Again, not sure how intentional that was, but clever misdirection either way. There's some underappreciated humor about the fact that they frog leaped over saying float makes you float, but then fully embraced and doubled down on smoke screen makes small screen. That's some subtly funny writing. I really dig the awful rock music in the background, and I appreciate them giving the proper respects to Deku's career choice as a teacher instead of crowning him for it. Even the musical track does as much. Plus they go over him returning to the top spot Iron Man style anyway, so that makes it even better. Unfortunately, them not going over Deku's continental feat at the very end with the One for All Embers was pretty much evident foreshadowing that it was gonna be saved for later, you know, to sort of hide how much of a stomp this really was. And I'm always torn on whether it's better for them to embrace the stompiness of a chap or to try and quote soften the blow, let's say. You know what else doesn't hold back in this lightest though? This animation, baby! Man oh man, where do we even begin with this? The art style, animation, expression, cinematography, and the choreography in this bad boy. I don't care it's been 4 weeks, I still think it's one of the best animations in the show's history, like top 3 material, rubbing shoulders with Sauron King. Recency bias ain't got shit on me. The only thing holding it back is the sound design for the hits themselves, which is sorta lacking and kinda makes it feel as if these two are dancing rather than fighting. Then again, I did see the argument that this was always gonna be the case due to vibranium absorbing Deku's hits and the impact of Miles' punches being pretty much non-existent if we take the strength gap seriously. Regardless, like, the way it starts like a Spider-Man comic book with appropriate zooms and sound effects to boot, before a manga-style Deku swings into the scene and out of the panel, with Spider-Verse particles bursting in as we go from comics to animation, I don't remember the last time I was sold on a death battle this quickly, I'm sorry. The models themselves hold some pretty interesting background too, with Miles' model actually being a mashup of his and Miguel's Fortnite models, of all characters, with the eyes themselves being hand-drawn, whereas Deku's model is a retextured version of the one for the One Justice video game, except for the head which was entirely hand-drawn. Like, how do you even call this art style? 2.5D? Yeah, that sounds great. 2.5D. Now I'm gonna need to think about which matchups I love to see being done in this new animation style, even though it's something only the godlike Moro can pull off for now. We have Miles mistaking Deku for another multiverse Spider-Person, which is inaccurate in the in-universe sense, but fully accurate in the meta sense, given how Spider-inspired Deku's whole power set is. There's this utterly adorable smile as Izuku is out Miles and his tender voice speaks out with such adorable politeness, I wanna call it. Like, it's ironic how this episode sparked the meme treatment, because I feel like Deku's previous episode was made for and by the Deku is a crybaby wimpy geek whose girlfriend fucks a new guy every week crowd. Whereas his portrayal in this episode feels much more earnest and sincere to the source material. He's portrayed as kind-hearted but not pathetic, intelligent but not geeky, and determined but not annoying. He uses pretty much all of his quirks in very creative ways, and his mind is constantly analyzing every detail. No hate towards Deku's previous voice actor, direction is what I'm all about here, but this portrayal in this episode, even in terms of voice acting too, is just Enough about Midoriya's past, let's talk about Miles' future, specifically how much this portrayal weirdly feels like a Miles who's already been through an entire Spider-Verse trilogy of movies and learned all the ropes already. Hence his constant confidence, using Peter B. Parker's teachings as if they were his own, and just how he sorta quote little bros Deku as the start of the fight, calling him a newbie, because compared to Miles, yeah, he low-key kinda is. Which is such a clever way of integrating his skills advantage into the fight, I love it. The general dynamic of Miles always quipping while Deku is always thinking was portrayed so damn well, man. I love how both this brief flash foreshadows Deku's superior speed right before the vibranium shock absorption is established as well. Some neat visuals and sound effects to boot. What's not subtle, however, is the callback to Season 1's Spider-Man vs. Batman, of all things. And like, I guess both matchups are about Spider-Man going up against an underdog genius, but I mostly got the headcanon that the Spider-Man who fought Bruce back then is the same one who mentored this version of Miles, has the same move. Thankfully with a much more family-friendly result this time. Wonder how that battle Spidey is doing these days. Probably hiding for some French girl, I don't know.
Now we're here, gotta take this somewhere else. Oh, gross!
Speaking of expected and or unexpected gore, I shit you not. The reason I reacted so strongly to this scene in my reaction video is because I first thought Deku straight up broke Miles' wrist here. Reminder, I still had the canonical strength difference in mind while watching this. Thankfully it wasn't anything on the sword, it just kinda broke his web shooter, and we instead get Deku highlight how gross spider webs to the face can get, which gave me major Sam Raimi vibes for a reason. Maybe it's highlighting how gross webs can be.
Really nice, but you can't cut it here in BK.
Not only this scene is pure Spider-Verse humor, but there's also the fun detail of Spider-Man's scream being delayed because they were traveling faster than sound. Probably Mach 10 or something, I don't know. It's crazy how this scene is basically a cooler version of the previous time Deku kicked a building on the show. Endangering crowds versus deliberately choosing an abandoned area and parkouring your way out of it, said heated building instead of just slicing it. It's just an upgrade in every fashion, which in turn is low-key a bigger version of Batman doing the same when they threw a car at him in the Red Hood movie. Maybe it's just my brain desperate enough to find connections for everything though. On the topic of avoiding casualties outright, I low-key imagined this battle featuring a scene of Miles rescuing a civilian in a If This Be My Destiny style scene, and maybe for that civilian to be fan favorite Akane. But animator Moro confirmed that she was left out because he wanted people to, quote, actually watch the fight this time. Not gonna lie, that's kinda hilarious. Shiga Ito did spawn quite a lot of fan art for the lady that appeared for 3 seconds, and I mean, it would take quite a weirdo to be able to focus on both the fight animation and the Japanese businesswoman with messy hair receiving lots of explicit fan art. Too weirdo indeed. I can't imagine. I've been ignoring the spider elephant in the room for long enough, so let's just dive in. Is this battle just a compendium of Spider-Verse quote generators? Not quite. Firstly, it has the same amount of Spider-Verse nods as in Miles' aesthetic, and secondly, I think that they were integrated well for the most part. Like, the shoulder touch is still in this one, but it's so subtle that I missed it, because Miles didn't say, hey, and the whole I'ma do my own thing is... Wait, is that... What's up, danger? The whole I'ma do my own thing isn't just inserted at random, but is preceded by Miles using his electric constructs as webs before he pulls some Spider-Man 2 or farming in between debris. Then the climax itself is all about his sword and vibranium suit, meaning that there's a subtle shift throughout the fight where Spider-Man goes from doing Peter stuff to Miles stuff. And not gonna lie, I kinda like that subtle progression in the fight, almost as if he's slowly growing into his role more. Miles saying leap of faith in Spanish is the only Spider-Verse ism I don't think was integrated well though, sorry. It might as well be saying that thing from the movie, like they did in Thor vs Vegeta. And I still think that JJK isms in Shiga Ito were done better overall, in both quantity, quality and subtlety. I really like Deku moving the fight to an embedded area so that they could go all out. It works as a clever meta commentary about how the sheer destructive potential of Deku's powers can only be properly displayed in large empty areas, as the My Hero movies and last chapters of the manga have clearly shown. Too bad Moro's computer wasn't too fond of having to render such an abandoned city however. In what's probably, I don't know, the 69 wallpaper worthy frame in this fight, we get a Miles pose very reminiscent of his PS4 cover art. And staying in the topic of references, Deku mentions how
Sarah was right! Your quirk is amazing!
With the former being a My Hero Academia character whose favorite superhero is all but confirmed to be a legally distinct Spider-Man, probably Peter Parker, meaning that both the combatants end up mistaking each other for the wrong kind of quote spider people, albeit in different ways. Luckily Miles is here to correct them.
Amazing is my buddy! They call me the ultimate Spider-Man!
Not gonna lie, I was a bit confused about this scene at first. Apparently it's meant to be Deku using gear shift to accelerate some debris at Miles, with the latter slowly getting more overwhelmed before using a Mega Venom Blast to burst out of it. Unfortunately, we didn't get the Venom Blast followed by Nightmare Deku combo that I wishlisted in my prediction video, but I'm still fond of how the powers mixed up together in this one. You Say Danger is another one of those rap battle tracks which is fitting for the youthful nature of both heroes, unlike some other episodes. Black Adam vs Apocalypse. Miles is musically represented by synth and hip-hop beats, whereas Deku gets the orchestral heroic trumpets, resulting in a track that's honestly all around super pleasant to listen to. The lyrics themselves are basically them rap battling about which superhero successor does it better. The chorus is sung by both. I really like the structure of to be a hero, holding dear those who put their faith in me, overcome the fear, hope is more sincere, I surpass the legacy. Really nice. And Miles sings the first half of his verse in Spanish, fitting for his Hispanic heritage, including subtle digs like saying Deku applies to be an Avenger every month, or that he quote, can't cut it here in BK, which could mean either Brooklyn or Burger King, because you know, haha, Deku fast food worker joke. Also, I was listening to this track and I couldn't help but notice this part sounded familiar. The title obviously combines You Say One and What's Up Danger, and like, yeah, it's a popular track name for this matchup, but I wouldn't have minded if they somehow integrated it into the song itself, you know? Like, I don't know, when you say danger, answer the call, don't be a stranger as a hero, save them all, or something, I don't know. As it is, it's kinda just slapped in. Also, at first I was very underwhelmed by how simple the track art itself is. Like, I was imagining something more elaborate, like graffiti art of one for all colors over a red spider full of lightning or something. But nowadays, I kinda dig how simple it is. It's a nice visual sequel to What's Up Danger, and it incorporates the hero masks plus electricity powers nicely enough. The narrative theme for this fight is rather straightforward per se. I'd say it's force versus finesse. Deku, wielder of the continental level power from One For All, and Fajin is force, whereas Spider-Man's superior skills, training and gadgets place him in the finesse territory. Granted, Midoriya is a genius who excels on thinking on the fly, but you know, overwhelming power is kinda what kills this matchup for being a battle of pure smarts alone, per se. As much as Deku's brain was displayed really well in this animation, thankfully not in the literal sense. Speaking of, we all love villain versus villain fights. Who wouldn't want to see two monsters going all out in perfectly in-character ways? Destroying is what they do. But hero versus hero fights are somewhat tricky thing on that battle. Do you just make one of them pretty nonchalantly okay with murder, gruesome ways to end someone as cruelly as possible, or do you pull a respectful clash of wills? As shocking as this to say, this show took almost 200 episodes to have a hero accidentally killing another without being played as a joke. Yep, I repeat, this is only the third accidental death in the entire show's history, and the first one was not played for laughs. That's kinda crazy. Now, it kinda took me a while to realize Deku didn't die again here, and like, it was relieving to know I wasn't the only one with this problem, because like, come on. There's Deku's concerned look, a screen that could honestly belong to either character, and him falling to the ground all bruised better than monochrome. It kinda gave me major season 10 vibes, where paying less than 1% attention to the fight will result in you not fully understanding the ending. In retrospect, this is very obviously Deku realizing he definitely went over the threshold of what Miles' suit is able to absorb, with his last words in the fight paying tribute to the Ultimate Spider-Man title the young man titled himself as, with a shaky voice and a All Might-esque face in the air. The lack of hyphen is kinda funny, however. It gave me major vibes of how a kid who first heard of the character would write Spider-Man. You know, you kinda need to see the hyphen to know it's there. Speaking of stuff being there, I'm sorry, this is a very respectful ending and everything, but Miles' spider sense going off here is just hilarious. Like, yeah, I think he can see the building-sized fist barrage coming right at him. Thank you. I like how the final clash initially seems a very classic fist-to-fist, you know, with Deku powering up his full cowling as Miles charges his Venom Shock in Chidori-like fashion, only for the former to use his greater speed to launch a flurry of strikes that overload Miles' suit. Also, the realization that power absorption does not equal power negation, it's the same exact thing All Might himself realized while fighting Nomus. This, coupled with the doing my best part of the finale, makes it so that both combatants end up referencing both the canonical and Death Battle versions of their mentors. That's really cool. I've seen some call this ending underwhelming and like, From the explosive action standpoint, maybe, but I'd rather have a unique death that keeps you guessing, with Izuku overloading Miles rather than just punching into that, which will result in a gruesome view to say the least, and something that's true and respectful to both characters. If you don't like any of those things, please refer to what happened a few episodes ago. It's pretty funny that at first I thought Miles redirected Deku's own strength against him, given how that's how Moro envisioned the death would go if Miles was the one to win instead. For all we know, there's an alternate version of this animation where everything up to this point was identical, except Deku doesn't get up. Da-da-da-dun. Okay, no, probably not. Regarding the ending conclusion, I like how it's superpowers instead of powers like they always do, because you know, they're superheroes. And I also like the subversion of strength being the last thing they cover rather than one of the first, even though it gave me major vibes to the conclusion of Cray Cray vs Azuzu. I honestly think I somehow managed to reference this episode in every single review and or reaction ever since, even though I moved on from still being mad about it. It is also hysterical that they had to use lower stats for Deku compared to his previous episode just to make this fight seem less stumpy. I'm sorry, that's kinda hilarious. Speaking of that battle calculating stuff for the My Academia ending, it's weirdly poetic that both Deku and Shigaraki scaling to themselves ended up giving them major win coins against their opponents, because like Shigaraki's determination to outmuscle Deku resulted in a beast that would probably hit Mahito towards the moon, while Deku using gear shift to outrun the lightspeed timer Shigi, resulting in him blitzing the equally relativistic Miles. I don't know, that's just a neat connection. The way Venom Blast was completely non-existent in this ending rundown was odd to say the least, like all those debates about how much it affects mutants or not, how high it scales to Deku or not, whether Midoriya can black whip his way out of being paralyzed or not, just nothing, none of that. Okay, I mean, it's not the end of the world, but the only win coin in otherwise stomp matchup being relegated to a black box did give me major Master Chief and Antimatter vibes. So, while I don't like the idea that this episode is quote carried by the animation, since the rest ranges from either solid if not pretty damn good, I do agree that it elevates the episode quite a lot. Probably not the 9 or 10 I gave it on first viewing though. Right now it's probably a 8.5, 8.75 out of 10. It's sort of the reverse of the previous episode, in which I like the breakdown more than the fight itself, whereas in this one I like the fight so much that I basically consider it a masterpiece accompanied by solid breakdowns. On some Cole vs Alex type of timing. It also reached 2 million views pretty damn quickly, which makes sense given the marketable characters with a still active fandom on top of the visual eye candy, but I do think it deserves all the success it got. Tune in next week for my Godzilla reaction video, but until then, drink lots of water, I'll do the same. Oku Krypton, hope you made your day slightly better.